My name is Stephanie Perraton and my mentor is
Jayne Willets.
I joined Edge Allison in 1992, and one of the reasons for joining was the fact that there was probably about 40% female partners at the time, and that to me was a great incentive to succeed.
1992, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah. Goodness me, takes me back. I can remember you arriving at the firm and we were all in Rutland House and we had 9 floors, if you remember.
Yeah.
And we occupied all of the floors and there was a flat on the top floor. But I can remember you coming and you joined the licensing department.
That's right.
Well, I say the licensing department, there was only one partner and then you. And I can remember you being very lively and quite noisy as well, as you are now.
Yeah.
And we had a large number of female partners. I think we had probably 7 or 8, didn't we?
Easily at that time.
So it was a good environment to come to.
It was an excellent environment, and I think when I first met you, I found you quite formidable, and I would never have said then that we'd have become such good friends as we have now. I think the one thing that is absolutely true, you have been a real inspiration to me throughout my career. You've always been somebody to look towards and somebody who always knows the right answer in terms of what to do, what to say, where to go. And I found that a real help. And I would like to think that some of the knowledge you've passed on to me, I can pass on to others in the future, because I think it's really important. Everybody needs somebody to be able to turn to.
Well, I feel quite embarrassed now. Thank you for those lovely comments, but no, it's been a long journey from then until now. But with being in the legal profession, I think you need a good friend and ally, if I might say. And you don't have to speak to each other every day on professional matters, or even any other matters. It doesn't matter. But the point is that you know you've got somebody you can rely on. And I've had other women lawyers that I've used in the same way as mentors. Not one single mentor, but I've sort of drawn inspiration from others that have gone before me. Because when I qualified in 1982, there were women lawyers about, but not that many, and certainly not many at partnership level. So when I joined Edge & Ellison in 1988, there were already a number of women partners.
Yeah.
So that was great, because then I could look to them for support and guidance and encouragement up the ladder, or the greasy pole, as we used to call it.
But I think that's very true, and I think that was one thing that set Edge Allison apart from the other firms at the time. And I think most firms now have female mentoring schemes and everything, women's initiatives, women's enterprise. But I think in the days when I first joined Edge Allison, we didn't have an official name for it. But as a group of female partners, we were actually quite close. We did things together. We went off to conferences in London. We always managed to find somewhere at partners conferences just to have a drink or a get together. And I think we were supportive in a different way. We didn't have a title for what we did. But I do think as a group of female partners, we actually supported each other.
No, I think you're right. You're right. It went on for some years. And some of our colleagues from then, they've been elevated to very great judicial roles now.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously you're still at the firm.
Yep.
I have my own practice, so we've moved on in different ways. And now you're Deputy Vice President of Birmingham Law Society.
Absolutely.
Following in my footsteps. So I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
It's brilliant that you've taken on that role. It's absolutely superb. But it takes me back to those conferences that we used to have. Partnership conferences, didn't we? And we always found somewhere that was the sort of women friendly for our trips out and about. So that was good. That was good. So what about the future? Where do you see women in firms and partners' roles?
Well, I think there is still a lot to do in terms of equaling men and women in the profession. I think at the point of entry, it's probably more females than males, but for whatever reason, when you get to probably our age, we've lost a lot of the women. And I think that's a shame, and I think the balance within firms has changed as well, probably not for the better. I mean, when I joined Edges, as I say, probably 40% of the partnership were female. That's not the case now, and I'd like to understand a bit more why that is. But women have certainly got a real role to play, and currently BLS has got 3 senior officers, president, vice and deputy, all of whom are female, so I think that's a first. But yeah, I think mentoring is probably a really important thing for women to have going forward.
Do you think that people need one single mentor, or would it be better to have more? I think it's better to have a group of people that you can draw on as you need different bits of advice or however, as your career develops.
I totally agree with you.
I think one of the important aspects is to spread yourself within the local professional community or the legal community, and then you develop these contacts, don't you?
Absolutely. And I agree with you, and I don't think it necessarily needs to be all for the legal profession. One of the things that we do is organise dinners, as you well know, and there are a number of female lawyers there, but actually there's a number of senior female people from within the city of Birmingham that attend those, and I think it's really useful to be able to sort of draw on their experiences. Don't have to be lawyers to be able to teach you things.
Do you remember that event that was organised? It was what was the title of it? Something about things to tell your younger self.
Advice to my younger self when you were on the panel.
Advice to my younger self. That was fun, wasn't it?
Well, it was, and I think it was really useful because we had 2 lawyers, if I remember rightly, a TV producer, a TV writer, and there was another one, I can't remember who it was. But it was really useful, the questions that were asked and the advice that was given to everybody else. There was about 70 other people there, all of whom much younger than us. But most of them said they took away something from the advice that had been given. And we had the events lady as well, didn't we?
Yeah. She had very tall shoes, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah, very trendy. Very trendy. But no, it was interesting because, as you say, they weren't all lawyers on the panel, and they weren't all lawyers in the room. But some of the advice that came over, it could be used for the legal profession, anybody. Absolutely. As a woman making their way in the professional and business environment. But it was good. It was good. It was
and I think sometimes, I don't know whether it applies to men, I can't speak for men, but I think sometimes women can help other women boost their confidence, and sometimes for whatever reason we all lack confidence or lose confidence, and sometimes having a boost from somebody that you admire can really, really help you go forward. I know there's been times when my confidence has waned, and you've sort of given me a come along, let's get on with it sort of approach, which is exactly what but it's exactly what I needed at the time. So yes, one of the things you ought to mention is the maternity pay. But it's true, it wasn't part of the partnership agreement when pepping her now. But it's true though, it was one of the things that you had to fight for.
I wasn't very effective.
But you were. You were. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have had maternity pay in those days for female partners.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
I remember, you see.
Yeah. No, I think...
Things have stick with me that you've forgotten.
No, I was the second lady partner to become pregnant. And the first lady partner had a very rich husband. So she wasn't very concerned about getting any maternity pay while she was off from the partnership, off from work. So I had to fight a bit harder for it. I don't think I was terribly effective, but after me, I think they got the message and realised that women partners needed to work, needed some recompense while they were off having a baby. I was only off for about 2 months, 3 months. So, and I was in touch with the office all the time. So, not all the time, but part of the time. So that was all right. Now I've forgotten exactly what I was going to say now.
How the profession has changed.
Oh, something about the profession, and the developments. I think when I've been very fortunate, and I've never encountered direct discrimination. I'm sure that people have discriminated against me indirectly, but one of the important things, and it's a message really for the younger woman, is that you must never be a victim.
Yeah.
You must never go into a room or a meeting thinking that you're not better than the others. You may think that inside, but you must dare them to discriminate against you, and you must go in boldly. And I try and tell people, I tell my daughter, and it's all sorts of things you and I have discussed.
Absolutely.
About how do you dress as a woman? You in the legal profession, you dress like you're the senior partner.
Absolutely.
Every day of the week.
Yep.
And you don't go in like in your jeans or dressed down, because it's all to do with impact.
Absolutely.
And I think that they've lost that a bit. Well, rather a lot, to be honest.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, I remember the days when we used to have to ask permission in court to take our jackets off, and the dress code was navy, black, very, very dark grey, and that was it. And then trousers came in, then we could take our jackets off.
Oh, do you remember?
Suits.
About trouser suits? I didn't like people coming to work in trouser suits when I was a sort of equity partner. I used to say, I don't think you should be wearing trousers, only on a Friday, trouser suits. And then they became more and more commonplace. And now actually people don't wear them now so much, do they?
It's gone back again.
Gone back
now.
the other way. But I do think there's a lot of wonderful, clever, able women lawyers. But I just think they need to think about their impact and on their clients and on their colleagues, both men and women. It doesn't matter.
I think that's right, and I would, turning discrimination on its head, I would hate to think that I'm a female partner because I'm a woman. I would still rather be there on merit than anything else. And I think it's very dangerous when you start to look at discrimination. I mean, I don't actually think I believe in quotas and things like that. I think whatever sex you are, it should be on merit rather than anything else. I was only ever felt, discrimination is probably a strong word, but uncomfortable by male clients when they actually physically closed the door in my face and said they wanted a man rather than a woman.
Oh,
and I stood my ground, and I stood my ground, and I said, well, you've got me, and that's it. And, you know, it was fine. But that's the only time I can really remember.
You do have to stand up for yourself, and that you do need to take account of that.
However hard it is, and it is hard, and that's where I think you fall back on perhaps needing someone to speak to about it, and just say, this has happened, or I think this is going to happen, just so that you're ready for it. Because
one of the things that comes unnaturally to women is the social events, the business events that we used to have to do. I mean, I don't have to do them now so much, but networking, going to you asked Diane Benusi about it, going to the KPMG cocktail party at the ICC. There would be 400 men in the room, and you'd have to go into this darkened room and then network around the room. It's their Christmas party, that was it. And I can remember going to that and just going out and thinking, goodness me, I'm never going to be able to do this. And you just go in and you get on with it because it's your job, it's part of your job as an equity partner. But also I think there is still situations where you go into something and you are definitely in the minority as a woman. I mean, one of the things I remember was the CBI dinner. Again, the room at the ICC was almost, I would probably say 80% full of men. And again, it's quite hard to make that first step in, but you've got to get on with it. And that's one of the things I think that you've certainly helped me with, is taking that deep breath and stepping forward. Do you remember all those times when we used to have Penny Cobham that they used to give us advice about networking as women? We used to have a women partners group, do you remember? Absolutely. In Rutland House, and she used to give us all this advice and about how never to send a thank you card with a picture on the outside, always a plain printed card. Oh, she was very, very proper and gave us all these tips, but she was a great networker. Oh, she was. And I think you being president of the Law Society way back in 2000. So 19 years ago. That was just after, well,
8-9 years after I'd had the children and I'd been at the firm. And that was a real inspiration. You were the first female president of the Birmingham Law Society, and you became, there was a certain amount of gravitas attached to that position, both within the office and externally. And I do remember thinking that I'd actually like to wear the shield one of the days. So actually that's one of the ways you have inspired me, because I'm sure there were difficult times during your presidency, and the fact that you were the first female president, but that never showed.
That's interesting. I was a bit like the swan, gliding along the top, and then my legs were going like mad below, because my daughter was only 5.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I got all these regimented arrangements with the nanny, and the nanny staying over when I had to go to social events to represent Birmingham Law Society. So it was quite a military operation to keep it going, but and it was hard work, and the firm were very supportive. Yeah. But nonetheless, it leaves you with certain skills at the end of serving as president. So you've got them,
I hope so.
You've got them already,
because
you've been trained up by me. But you'll have even more when you come out the other end.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 years of events and.
But I think that's really important. You said that you were pedaling underneath, and I totally understand that, because I've been in situations like that, but it never ever showed on the outside. And I think that's a really important lesson for everybody to take away. There is always going to be something that we don't want to do or we're not comfortable in doing, but it is about pushing you forward, pushing yourself forward, and actually doing those things. Because generally speaking, at the end of it, I think most of us feel better.
Oh, definitely. And what's that old adage is that women don't have the confidence
Absolutely.
to volunteer for things, and unless they can do something 99% of the skills in the job advert, they won't put their hand up. Whereas the men are the reverse.
Yeah.
Are we allowed a sexist sort of comment?
Yeah, I'm sure we can say that.
Okay. But that's the thing. And then the other adage is that they say that women will only achieve true equality when average women are at the top of business organisations. So anyway, that's probably a bit near the knuckle, but I think
the first one I like that. You can say that.
Yeah. Say that.
I think in terms of progress, the fact that Jayne was the first female president of the Birmingham Law Society back in 2000, and now in 2019 we've actually got 3 female officers. I think that's real progress. I'm sure some of the past presidents wouldn't necessarily agree, but I think, in a very male-dominated profession, when we're celebrating 100 years of women in law, I think that's a real achievement. But also I think for your daughter, who is also a lawyer, to go perhaps one step further than you. I'm not sure how she's going to better you, but I think that's something we'd like to look forward to, is perhaps some of the struggles or the difficulties that we've had won't be faced by the next generation.
Yes, well, my daughter is a trainee, so she's not quite there yet, but I would like to see more women at the top of the major firms in Birmingham.
Yeah.
The major law firms, because then I would think that real progress has been made. But I do think that a lot of women, they switch off
Absolutely.
from the way in which the law firms are run, because they're run in a very traditional male business fashion. And I think that's where the disconnect comes. But that's not to say that those women coming up the ladder shouldn't lack ambition to succeed and to manage those firms, because there is a way of changing them, a consensual way of changing them. You don't need to be aggressive or unpleasant about it, because if you're really clever as an advocate, we should be persuasive and to get our own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's important. I think I would like to see more women running heads of office in the well, not just in Birmingham, but Birmingham will do, to see head of the commercial law firms here, because there are fewer now in 2019
Absolutely.
than there were in fact 20 years, 15, 20 years ago, because there was the heads of well, I won't say the names of them, but there were 2 or 3 senior lady partners who came from my generation, not from the current generation.
Absolutely. And, like I've said, we are lucky enough to have a female European managing partner of the firm. But within the Birmingham office, we are probably 15% female partners.
Yeah.
And that's got to change before you can have female head of offices and things like that.
Yeah, and it's from those people that those coming up the ladder learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And aspire to become. And it's important that we have them as role models, because otherwise there's nobody to turn to, there's no future mentors.
No.